Okay, y'all, something I want to talk to you about today is that our time on the planet is limited. Yes, obviously, we're all going to die one day, but the sick thing about society is we never live or reinforce to each other that, yeah, we're going to die one day. And we all think that things are going to be hunky-dory by the time we retire with plenty of money, health, and all that jazz, and we don't prepare for the unexpected obstacles. I mean, people today don't even do it in their 20s and 30s, let alone for their 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. So because our time is obviously very limited, we're only on the planet for a short amount of time when you really think about it, you need to do yourself a favor and take some goddamn chances and make some moves in life, because playing the safe card every single time is going to make you regret a lot of things when you're a lot older. And you're going to look back and be like, fuck, bro, why I have the balls to do that? Take my old job, for example. I went to college for 4 years, and I got a corporate job in the field right after I graduated, which I was pretty lucky with. And I did that for about 10 months. Now, during those 10 months, it was pretty tedious, especially more during certain parts of the year than others. Sometimes we had too much to do, and I wanted to shoot myself, and other times I had nothing to do, and I was getting anxious, like, oh my god, am I going to get fired for this? I'm literally reading a book at my job, because we have literally nothing to do. And during most of this, yes, I was getting a paycheck, yes, I was getting paid relatively decently. Nothing to write home about, but nothing to complain about either. It was pretty good. I was trading away so much of my time for a pretty decent amount of money, right? But here's the thing. If you get, addicted to safety or that comfort, and you kind of just become, more acclimated, and they kind of give you, this, 2 or 3 or 5% raise that you might get every year, and that's, your token for, I should stay in the safe corner, right? Then you're not really growing, and you're not going to have more experiences that you could have had, right? I got very lucky with the disaster that COVID was. I lost my job almost immediately after. And while I already had plans for what to do after that job, it just made those circumstances move up a lot faster. And here's the thing. I'm in Buenos Aires right now, and life here is pretty good. I'll be returning to Texas in a few weeks. But I would never have gotten here if I had just stayed in my corporate job and I enjoyed my relatively decent 5-figure salary. How would I have ever seen the experiences of what this part of the world has to offer and how these people live, and trying to learn this new language, Spanish, from a cubicle in the United States? It wasn't going to happen. Now, yes, you can make the argument, okay, well, what if you get 2 weeks of PTO a year and you go fly there for 2 weeks? Great, you're going to have 2 weeks. But what about the other 50 weeks of the year? You're pretty much attached to it. You have to sacrifice all the time you have, for the most part, at these jobs. Hey, you have to come in Saturday? What are you going to do? Tell them no and go fuck themselves? You're SOL. So I've been here since August, and I'll be here till mid-November. So that's a pretty healthy 2.5 months. And how would you ever get 2.5 months off continuously at a job like that? Anyway, I'm not here to brag about my life, even though I've enjoyed this a lot. Maybe this wouldn't be the thing for you, right? It could be something else. For me, traveling, or kind of just going to experience a new way of life and seeing how fucking good we have in the United States is actually very much worth it for me. But for you, maybe it's different. I can tell you that with all the hobbies I've had, that job was suffocating and asphyxiating my time to the point where I didn't really feel like anything more than a corporate drone. So maybe traveling's not your thing, but the thing is, it will asphyxiate your time, and you only have so much time on this planet, so you need to make moves faster than you think you do, at least in order to get the most out of life. And also, it is a scary thought, because if you go off the ship and you go off the reservation, well, it is kind of a tough world out there, But you also have to remember, if it was easy, everyone would fucking do it, right? The easy thing to do is make the really safe decision and continue to make that healthy enough amount of money, but not amazing, and trade that time when you have all this energy and say that's what you would rather do than what you actually would want to do. Again, you're going to be 70 one day, or maybe 80 or 90 if you're lucky. You're going to look back and be like, fuck, man, I wish I hadn't stayed so safe all the goddamn time, and I hadn't traded all that time where I had all this energy sitting in an office when I could have been doing XYZ. For me, traveling, conquering another continent, learning a new language, even if I'm not really able to speak Spanish all that well, I mean, it works out for me quite nicely. And again, even in Tony Robbins' book, actually, ironically, it was recommending you could move to another city in another part of the world, which might be a lot cheaper. It specifically mentioned Buenos Aires, which I thought was hilarious. But there's other options out there that seem very intimidating that you could pull the trigger on that might seem scary, but could actually work out in the long run. Now, of course, not everything's going to work out every single time. Again, life is not like that. But what's going to be even better is when you're in your 80s or 90s, you'll have a good story to tell. If you have grandkids, you're going to have 2 options, right? You could be like, okay, I was the corporate guy that killed that financial consulting for all these years. Nobody was better than sitting at my cubicle than I was for 35 years, and I made a hell of a lot of money. Yeah, you could do that. Or you could be like, yeah, well, I was in Argentina one time. I kind of took a wrong turn here. I thought these guys were going to mug me, and I ended up meeting my wife like that. Now, obviously, I just made that up within 2 seconds, but something like that could happen. You never really know. Life is full of surprises, and specifically, that's going to be way less likely to happen in Argentina than other parts of South America, because Argentina tends to be pretty safe in comparison. But yeah, you just really don't know. Here's the thing. There's an iceberg, or you could call it an onion of things that are possible, right? We'll just make 5 layers of the iceberg, or a few layers of the onion. Inside the middle of the onion over here is maybe your perfect life, and it's got I don't know, whatever you want, a ton of money or sufficient money. You don't have stress. The dating life is exactly the way you want it. You have a fantastic wife, kids. You can afford a life for all of them. Maybe you have some job. But over here is exactly where the perfect life is, and you could only ever get here by chopping your way through this onion at the first, second, third, fourth, and into the fifth layer. But you can never get to the fifth layer if you're never even going to open the first layer. And what's worse is you'll never see the fifth layer, and it'll never even be a thought in your mind because you're looking at the first layer like, oh shit, man, that's like really hard to pull the trigger on. I think I'd rather just be safe and stay in my corporate job. And again, bashing on corporate jobs as if that's like the end all be all of like safety and whatever. But there's just like, this is like an analogy for everything in life. There are safe decisions you can make that are going to slowly like destroy your mentality, and you're going to look back on in 40 or 50 years and be like, fuck man, that was such a waste of time. Why did I do that? So the point is too, you can never really get any upside without taking a chance. And yes, it is possible that whatever you're going to do is not going to work out, or it could get a little bit ugly. Hence why we try to take educated guesses and educated risks. We want to minimize our downside and maximize our upside. But you can't really get to that fifth layer of the onion if you're never willing to take a chance of any kind. So you can stay in your lane, keep doing the safe thing, continue, and then in a year from now you can almost predict that your life would be like copy pasted and be roughly the same. Or you can take a chance, do something different, and yeah, it'll be scary at first, but you just never know where that's going to go. And it could be a good thing. Again, you can't see the fifth layer of the onion until you peel back the first one. So you have to peel back the first one to kind of know like, oh, the second one's right here. Maybe the second one's kind of cool. And then it leads to the third and the fourth. And all of a sudden, you're living this awesome life in maybe like a year or two, you know? You just don't know. Life is very unpredictable and full of surprises. And it can only have good surprises if you're willing to take the chance. So please, 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 I'm trying to put good energy in the world. And I realize I sound like a hippie when I say that. But do not get to your deathbed in your 80s and 90s and be like, fuck. Why didn't I try harder? Fuck. Why didn't I make that change sooner? Fuck. Why didn't I do X, Y, Z? I really wanted to do that. I wasted these 10 years doing this 5 years. And time can add up continuously for a long time. Like, even though I'm 28, like, I've only had, like, 6 groups of 5 years roughly. But when you go into your 40s and 50s and 60s, you can start losing decades of your life. I did this for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years too long. I wish I had changed sooner. That would be fucking brutal to be on your deathbed and having those thoughts. A third of your life, if you're lucky, being wasted or just being like too safe or just being like sucked into the matrix and not taking advantage of what's out there. That would be one of the absolute worst realizations, and trust me, it would be worse to cry yourself to sleep than to take the chance. So do whatever you need to do. Get your ducks in a row, make your life worth it. Like me, for example, maybe you don't like traveling, but I'm going to be able to tell people I went to Buenos Aires. I have all sorts of ridiculous stories from over here. And honestly, when I came to this country, I had no fucking clue what to expect last year. Now I do because I've been here. But trust me, the level 5 onion is very much worth it. Now that I'm thinking about it, I actually do have one really big regret in my life. And I know it's going to seem very childish, but I've always been very athletic. I loved playing baseball growing up. I actually didn't even try to play baseball in high school. That was really sad because I could have made so many friends, and I had friends in high school, but I could have made high school a lot better for myself. And I can tell you what happened. When I was 12 or 11 maybe, I think some of these kids like at the next level started throwing the ball a lot harder, and I started being like afraid. And I'm never going to blame my parents for this, but I wish like my dad had like sat me down and said like, look dude, they're going to start throwing the ball a lot harder. You're going to get hit a few times, but that's okay. You got to get the fuck up there, swing that goddamn bat, and not be afraid. And it's just part of the game. You get back on the horse. And that wasn't really like emphasized all that much in my house, so this is not supposed to be like a, cry me a river fest, but that would have been really, really fun for sure. So maybe there's something like that in your life. That was only 4 years for me, but maybe there's something in your life that you could change. And you don't want it to be as long as 4 years. You want that to be as little as possible. And God forbid, you can also find a way to prevent that from being like a decade or like 2 decades. Like that is a lot of time to be wasting and like not be able to get back. Because once your time is gone, it is gone. You are never getting it back. Like time is always going forward. You will die one day. You gotta do what you gotta do now. So to end this video, I'm actually gonna say don't be safe. Take a chance. Peel back that onion and try to make sure that your onion and the center of your onion is as large as possible while minimizing the risk you take to pull it back.